Hey guys, so welcome to my second video in the series of how to get faster at 3x3. This video is going to be talking about F2L, and basically what I'm going to be talking about in this video is look ahead, basically what you should do in terms of pair, consolidating moves, and consolidating rotations, and also be talking about bad F2L cases where you can learn an alternate alg. So with F2L, a lot of people like to think that F2L is just developed by practicing and learning how the cube works. That is entirely true, that there's nothing false about that statement, but there are a couple of things that should be emphasized in F2L because the F2L is the heart of your solve. It is what, will get your times down. It's not fast last layer, it's not, good cross, because cross and F2L are really, they're conjoined. They're basically the same thing as each other because cross and F2L is basically first two layers, and when you're doing the cross, you're still doing the first two layers. And if you have a fast cross, it means nothing if you don't have a fast cross to first pair transition, because that's an important part of your solve. Another thing I want to mention is that rotations should be consolidated because that's time taken up. And a lot of people like to do is do a Y2 in terms of inserting a pair, and either they could be looking for a pair or whatever. But if you have to do a Y2 to insert a pair, that means the pair was rotationless already, so you don't need to do that. So right off the bat, when I finish my cross, the first thing I notice is this pair here. And the second thing I notice is this pair on the top. Problem is, when I insert this pair, I know that this pair is going to be a little bit broken up, but I do know that they're both rotationless. So, instead of doing what I was normally going to do and move this down to pair it up like that to hide this piece, I'm actually going to do the opposite and hide this piece and insert it like that. And now I have an easy case here. And then I also see this at the same time. So I'm going to pair this up. And right off the bat, I know that this is also going to be an easy case. And I have a, but now I have to rotate. So I rotate like that, and I have to rotate again because I know this is that. But another thing here is that I know that the edges are going to be misoriented because, I don't really have a lot to deal with here. So what I would do here in terms of edge control is instead of rotating and parroting up like this, I would rotate over here and do that so I can rotate again and sledgehammer. Now that's the only time that really rotations are good, is when you're trying to preserve edges. I didn't get a fantastic case here, but I would take any other case than the dot case. So that's the first thing. The second thing is knowing how to insert certain cases and execute them. Like this one here. There's no algorithm for this, but with practice F2L, you learn how to execute your own algorithms and your own finger tricks. So one thing I want to emphasize here is when you're doing F2L, you want to learn to do U2 flicks with your left hand. It does help in F2L because it consolidates regrips. It's consolidating moves, regrips, and rotations are all good. So basically, yeah. So the first case I see here is, it's kind of an awkward case, but then again, it's also rotationless. So what I could do to pair it up is make a 3-move case like that. But then again, you saw me do, I have to put my hand all the way down here, versus when you normally hold the cube, you hold it like this. You hold it with your thumb and your middle finger in the back. And so if I have to do this, where I have to completely move my hand, that's more time. But if I can do U2s with my left hand, I can just still hold it like this, do the U2, move it back, and I'm not regripping at all or moving my, my hand movement, or my, hand placement. Second pair here. Now I don't really have to do any of that, but then I also have a pair in the back. And at the same time, if I insert this, I don't have to do a U2 like this. My left hand's already here. So at the same time I do that, I can do a U2 and then insert it. So that's basically that. And then they have this case right here. Personally, I don't like doing this case from the left side. It is rotationless from any angle. That's what's nice about this particular case. But in this instance, it was here. I would just rotate and do it like that. I just find that to be, easier to do with my right hand rather than my left hand. And it's in some cases like that. I mean, you could do triple sexy like that, but I don't. It's slow rather than doing. It's just faster. So yeah, that's another one. The third thing is looking ahead and seeing what pairs you can make when you insert a certain pair. So right off the bat, when I see my cross, I automatically see this pair and this pair is already made. So, I really don't have any time to look for any other pairs because hopefully they'll be made when I insert these two cases. But here's what I have. I can automatically just insert this pair in the back. And I have this pair here. So I can bring them both up and then insert this again. And then bring it back down. And then now I have this case in the back and I have this 3 move here. I know that I can just easily insert this case and just rotate and do this case. So that was probably really easy F2L. But a lot of it is just focusing on, looking ahead. So here, and just solve my cross. And see, what do I have? I have this case right here, which is rotationless, but it's a really easy case. And then I also have this case over here, which is also, well, it's rotationless from this angle. So what I'm going to do here is I know that this case is going to be broken up when I do this case, but it's going to make it a little, nicer. So I have this. I can easily just pair that up. And I have that. Now I have this case right here. It's automatically there. And I know from the start that this piece was already inserted. That was not going to move no matter what. So now I just need to figure out where the blue-orange piece is so I can figure it out that way. So when I insert that, it's rotationless. So I'm going to do an instead of inserting it with an L, I'm going to do an L2, and then a U2 with my left hand, move back up, insert it, and that's it. Now the last thing I'm going to talk about is bad F2L cases. Oftentimes in a solve, you will get a bad F2L case where it's just really tough to execute, and you're going to need to learn an alg for it. It just really, really helps. This is one of my least favorite cases. It's awful. It's rotationless, but there's really no way to pair it up really well. I mean, you can do F sexy, F prime, and then pair it up that way, but then you have to do Fs. I don't like doing Fs during F2L unless I have to sledgehammer or something. So what I learned for this case, it's really nice. What you can actually do is, it's especially helpful when it's the last pair, but you can do it for any pair. You can just do an M, and then pair it up that way. And it's really quick. So insert that. The only downside to this case is when you have a horizontal bar, like this one, you will get a cross case. If you have a half horizontal bar, you'll get a bar case or an L case. Problem is if you have a vertical bar, or a half vertical bar, because you can't have a full vertical bar, obviously, you're going to get a dot case. So it's really just personal preference. If you don't like dot cases, then, whoops, what did I do? Whatever. If you don't like dot cases, then that's, not your thing, but that's the first one. The second case is this. It's also rotationless, and the beautiful thing about this case is that it doesn't really affect any of the edges. So if you have a cross like this, or a dot like this, you automatically know it's going to be a dot or a cross or an L or whatever. So it's really nice, and it's good for any pair because it starts with an R. And typically, half your F2L pairs will start with R. So if it's like over here, if it's like this and you see it, you can easily just rotate and flow right into it. So here's how you execute it. The only problem is it has a push with D, like the E perm, and a lot of people don't like pushing. It's a good habit to get into because, it works in E perm, it makes your E perm really fast, but this case also uses it, so if you can just get into the habit of, it was tough at first when I learned it because I had to move my ring finger from back here to back here, or right here, and it was tough from that transition, but you'll get used to it after a long time. That's what I said F2L. Basically what happens is, if you learn a case and then you practice it, it'll eventually become muscle memory and you'll just get right into it, and you'll automatically move it right there, and that's what happened to me after, some time. So I can easily just, and it's really insert. It's really quick. It's like the other one, and it preserves everything and makes me cross. So that's it. That's all of F2L. The only thing really, there's no substitute for practice. But what I would recommend is that if you are kind of stumbling and you don't really know how to progress any more than you already have, I would suggest learning algs or, focusing on look ahead or really slowing down and doing slow turning and consolidating rotations. And then after you've gotten that all down, you can then begin to practice and do just mindless practice and solves. And that'll all become implemented into your solves and you'll eventually become faster. So yeah, see you guys in the next video.